Two Nights Talk is back, everybody. Johannes, Fischer, and myself will talk about the things that happened in the last week and which are coming up very soon. And we have three main themes which are related to the Germans. Let's start with what you have to talk about, which is a legend.
Yeah, and this is the death of Robert Hübner. I mean, as you might have read, he died on January the 5th this year after a long and severe illness. And okay, this is already almost 2 weeks ago, but still we thought it would be appropriate to say something about Hübner. And I've met Hübner a couple of times personally, in person, but never very closely. And so I think I belong to this group of German chess players who, in a way, know Hübner, have seen him, maybe talked, exchanged a couple of words with him, but not on a close basis. But I remember when I was a junior player in Hamburg, I was invited to a training session with Hübner. The best Hamburg players and the best Hamburg juniors were invited, and Hübner was presenting his games, or some of his games, or analyzing his games from the candidate matches against Adoyan and Portisch. And I have to admit, this was a rather frightening and frustrating experience, because I think I was 16 or 17, not a very good player. And I was sitting there, and Hübner was just analyzing, and he was just, his intellectual focus and his intellectual energy was just frightening. He was always focused. And there's also, Hübner had a reputation of being very critical. He was very self-critical and also very critical towards others. So the idea that you said something and then you proposed a line and said maybe you can play bishop c5 or knight c5 and why not sacrifice with knight f6, and then the refutation would be obvious.
Oh.
And but what I remember best from this training session was that at a certain point of time, Hübner used the word arbitrary. I mean, arbitraire in German, which is an uncommon word. And I didn't know this word at that time, but I was too shy, and I thought, oh, everybody else knows what this is, I mean, Hübner said that the selection of moves, or the moves that were proposed, were a bit arbitrary. And then the Gisbert Jacobi, co-founder of ChessBase, who had organized this training session, looked around and said with a wry smile to Hübner, maybe not everyone is aware of the meaning of this word. And as it turned out, hardly anyone was. And then Hübner explained this, this is random, arbitrary, and so on and so on. And this is what I remember best. And I also remember I was amazed that this man could just focus for 8, 9, 10 hours, focus on chess, and he never seemed to let up. So he always seemed to be on point, focused, and very much there. And also, this is what I found also impressive later. Apart from his successes, I mean, he was the world's number 3, and he qualified 4 times for the candidate matches. And but I think what I remember very well is that at one time he played a blindfold simultaneous against the club of Kreuzberg, who was first league, second league. And he was playing against 8 opponents, blindfold, simultaneous, and these opponents had an ELO average of 2,300. And he won the match clearly with 6.5, 1.5. So these were no beginners, and these were people who could have played against Hübner in an open but
that's brutal.
Yeah. And he was focused till the very end, and I think this lasted 11 or 12 hours, and so, and what I also like, I mean, what I think about Hübner is that he was always self-critical. He was always, and this made it difficult with him, because Hübner went around and said, I don't understand anything about chess. I'm a patzer, and well, chess is too difficult, and I don't like this game, and I don't understand it. And this is one of the best players in the world, the number 3 at one time. And then you think, if this man doesn't understand anything about chess, where does this leave me? With 400, 500 ELO points less, and this is you don't really want to give an answer to that.
No, it gets you back to reality a little, right?
Gets you back to reality. Yeah. Well, but I think that the way Hübner treated himself and talked about himself was too harsh, and this always, this made it difficult. And this also, you had the idea that he was just very, very reclusive, but people who told me, who knew him better, said he was in private conversations, he could be absolutely charming and very friendly and, a delight to talk with, ironic, witty, erudite, everything. Yeah.
Interesting.
But, and also, I mean, Hübner was famous for his long analysis. And I think, I acquired his book, 25 Annotated Games, which is basically just, lines and lines and variations. And he just put it on. I mean, hardly any text, just lines and analysis. But I liked the Hübner. I think he was an absolutely brilliant writer. I think, to me, he was one of the most brilliant and best chess writers in Germany.
Oh, wow.
Everything was there. He was, he had a clear style. He was brilliant, witty, ironic. He could have a biting, sarcastic wit. He was very erudite, and his arguments were always very clear and well thought out. And so to read his articles and his books is just a pleasure.
Which book would you recommend the most? Have you ever read one in English? Probably not. Why would you?
This is the astonishing fact. As far as I know, hardly any of his books were translated into English. So there is this book, 25 Annotated Games, but this is just his analysis.
Yeah.
And I think that his brilliant wit does not come through in this book. But he wrote a number of other books in which he did chess historical research. Mm-hmm. And unfortunately, I think that a lot of this research has not been received in the English-speaking world. For instance, he debunked the myth of Lasker as a psychological player, and very convincingly. I mean, he argued that Tarrasch and Reti, because they had bad results against Lasker, tried to excuse their losses and thought, Lasker is a kind of magician and he knows how to get into my mind and he finds my weaknesses. And Hübner convincingly said that, or argued that Lasker was always a man who believed in principles, that his philosophies, his philosophy about struggle and fight, that he was searching for principles that govern all fights, all struggles. Mm-hmm. And so the very idea that he would just, find out, this person has some weaknesses here and there, and I should play accordingly, is not very likely. Mm-hmm. And he also said that he argued, again, convincingly, I found that the best opportunities to influence or to shape the way the game will later go is in the opening. And this was Lasker's weakest point. Yeah. And so he said this is all a myth, and he also, this is again the skepticism of Hübner. He said that this myth is so widespread and so firmly rooted in the minds of people that no matter what he writes will change that. And I think to a certain extent he is right. And again, he also wrote a book he analyzed, world championship matches, for instance, Alekhine, Capablanca, or Lasker Steinitz, and Schlechter Lasker, the famous world championship match, 1910, I think it was. And there is this famous tense game in this match in which people said that Schlechter needed only a draw to win the match, but he wanted to win because...
this one, yeah.
Yeah, this one. And Hübner, again, convincingly refutes all the myths and all the stories about this match. And I think it's a pity that his writings are not translated, or as far as I know, there is just hardly any book or articles translated by him because, well, in these pieces, all his brilliance and all his erudition comes through, and also, I mean, it's just if you look at the intellectual capacities of Hübner, it's just amazing. I mean, he had a PhD in ancient philology, and and despite all his serious approach to chess and analysis, he was also very much a gamesman. I think he played Xiangxi, the Chinese form of chess. He was also an excellent card player, as people said, and I even heard, I don't know whether this is a legend or not. I once heard that he was playing for the HSK in the Bundesliga, and at
Hamburg
one time,
Sports Club.
Yeah, Hamburg Sports Club, and at one time he organized or said, "Why don't we play a blitz match, a simul blitz match?" So 8 people on the one hand and Hübner on the others. I think, I don't know, maybe Hübner 10 minutes for each game, the team 5 minutes, and they had no chance.
Now, the good thing is that you have also prepared a little game for us. Let's take a small look into one of Hübner's brilliancies.
Let's chess speak for itself.
So when did this happen?
This was at the Interpolis tournament in Tilburg, 1979, and Hübner had the white pieces. Smyslov had the black pieces, and those of you who are familiar with chess history will know that in 1983, Hübner and Smyslov were playing a candidates match. And this candidates match became infamous. I mean, almost all Hübner's candidates matches became infamous because the first time in 1971, I think he played against Petrosian, and he resigned the match after because there was just too much noise and disturbance. He later also withdrew from a candidates match against Korchnoi. And against Smyslov, the match in 1983 ended in a draw, in a tie after 10 games, 5-5. I think it was 8 draws, and Hübner won a game, Smyslov won a game. And they went into overtime, so to speak, and played another 4 games. And these games all ended in a draw. So what to do now? And then the organizers of the match had a brilliant idea because they were playing in Velden at the casino. And what better way to decide a chess match than roulette? So they asked Hübner to pick a color and Smyslov to pick a color.
No way.
Yeah, and the thing is that Hübner, being Hübner, he didn't want any of this nonsense, and he was not present when the match was decided with the roulette wheel.
Wow.
And you know what happened? When the wheel was spun for the first time.
Was it 0?
It was 0.
Oh
exactly.
my God! I was just like, how you cannot make this up? Unbelievable.
No, you cannot. You cannot make this up. And then they did it again, and red came, and Smyslov won, so to speak. And I don't know, I think it was wasn't it this at the World Blitz or Rapid Championship where there was the illusion when Nepomniachtchi said to Carlsen, we can also play roulette. I think this was an allusion to this candidates match.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nonetheless, let's look at the game.
Yeah, let's look at the game. This was played 4 years before. Hübner had white and started. Wait a minute. Why can't I? Okay. You have to cut this out later. Yeah. Hübner started with d4, c4, c6, knight c3. All this seems to be fine and normal, but I'm not an expert, so...
But a4 looks like lila
No,
Alpha Zero.
This is classic theory, known for ages.
Okay.
Slav defense. So both sides develop. Bishop b4. So e4 is attacked now. Queen c2. Bishop takes. Yeah. So black gives his bishop for the knight, and now white's structure is damaged, but white has the bishop pair, and this will shape the game.
I would take white every day here.
Yeah, maybe you're right.
Oh,
Take white, you're right.
What?
Yeah.
Why would you also castle in that direction? Unbelievable.
Yeah, but this is again, both sides play in a very principled way. So Smyslov plays c5 now, provoking white to play d5, which white does. Now he takes on c3, giving up the second bishop. White takes back, ed5, rook d1. And white now has two bishops and white has two knights, but black wants to attack on the king side, on the weakened king side, which he does with queen c8. So, and now white has a pass pawn, the bishop's pair, but a ruined structure. And if black manages to mate white, of course black will win. But if white manages to defend the position, white will win, so roughly speaking. Queen h3.
Sometimes that's how chess is going.
Yeah, it's always like this. Rook b1. Queen takes f3. Bishop e2. Queen h3. Rook b7. c4. So in this case, the problem for black is that his knight on a6 does not really take part in the game. And it's hard to see how he will mate white. Maybe he can activate his rooks, rook e8, rook e5, something like this. But white successfully defends. Queen g2, c8, d6. White does not take the pawn on a7, but just advances his pawn.
At least the knight came out.
At least the knight came out. Yeah. d7. But I think this is already, at this position, black is already lost,
It looks a little tricky, yeah.
Yeah, the rook d8 is threatened. Now he plays rook d5. Rook takes d5, knight takes d5. And now it's white to move and win.
White to move and win.
So if someone is interested in tactical combinations, tactic puzzles, maybe he or she should stop the video and think for a minute or two. It's easy, but not so easy because Hübner played a different move.
Okay. Oh, okay. Yeah, it looks quite straightforward to me. But maybe I'm missing something. Could very well be.
Well, what's your idea?
Queen e8.
Queen e8. Yeah. Queen e8. Oh, interesting. Queen e8.
All those years. It's been exactly 45 years, my birth date, 1979, and nobody has thought of Queen e8 before.
Queen e8 looks interesting, but what can black
do against Queen e8?
Yeah, good question. Maybe Queen d6.
Queen d6. All right, and after Rook b8.
Rook b8.
Queen takes Rook.
Queen takes Rook, yeah.
Yucky. Good. Never mind.
But the idea is very good.
Yeah, thanks.
But he can play. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So what about? No, I don't know. You have to solve it now.
Rook b8 would be the winning move.
Oh yeah, well, that's also very straightforward, actually.
Yeah, because if you take with the rook, I play
Queen e8.
Queen e8, yeah. And now queen d6 doesn't work because of queen. Rook takes, and if you take with the queen, rook e8 wins. And if you take with the king, you are mated with queen to e8. Well, but Hübner didn't play this. He played a different move. He played queen e4, the technical move. Maybe he was in time trouble. Maybe he knew that this was winning. Maybe, I don't know. He didn't reveal why he made this move. Oh, and again, I mean, this is something which I found quite striking. Hübner had a very interesting approach to exclamation marks in all his analysis. He never gave any move an exclamation mark because you're just, if this is the best move, it should be played, and it does not deserve an exclamation. So it's always like, dubious move, interesting move, very dubious move, mistake, error, but never an exclamation mark. So, okay, and now he takes, queen takes, and rook c7. So now white simply threatens rook c8, and the pawn will queen. Knight e2, king f1, knight f4.
Revenge check.
Oh, it's more than a revenge check. So, I mean,
the
black threatens or wants to go to e6, and then he will stop the pawn. So, and this is again a little tactical puzzle. White to play and win. And this time Hübner saw the right move.
Oh, okay. What could it be? Bishop d5.
Bishop d5.
Whoa!
Stopping the knight from going to e6. And if the knight takes, rook c8 will win because the pawn will queen.
Nice.
So this was a Hübner game. And for me, I don't know. I'm not an expert on Hübner games, but this seems to be rather typical, Just a well-prepared opening and a double-edged position. And then he made strong moves. He played very well and won convincingly. So nothing spectacular, no spectacular mating attacks, but very strong positional chess.
Very nice. So this was Robert Hübner, rest in peace. I only knew him from magazines in the 90s, that he was still playing in the Olympiads, and he was considered the greatest German chess player in the 20th century, or like one of the greatest, at least.
Yeah, I think he definitely is the best and the greatest and the most important German chess player after World War II. There's no doubt about it. And he's just an amazing figure, and his contributions to the game are manifold, and, he was an interesting personality.
Let's talk about another interesting and also a legendary personality who also knew Hübner quite well. As far as I know, maybe I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure. That's Elisabeth Paehtz. And as many of you know, she is, or she was, the best German chess player for at least 2 decades, actually. And what is the reason why I'm talking about her? Well, it was just very recently her 40th birthday, and I was luckily also one of the guests, and I was introduced as the guy who's learning since over 150 episodes in our show Elisabeth's Eddie's Schatztruhe, and still getting worse in chess after all those lessons, which is very true.
You get private lessons which you share with chess-based viewers.
That you could say so. Yes. It's kind of like that.
What do you think is special when Elisabeth teaches chess, or when you talk chess with Elisabeth?
The nice part is what you figure out very quickly, that Elisabeth is a quite excellent coach, because she understands the way how to think about positions. She loves rules, which she can recite many, many times and use them. And there are so many rules applicable to so many chess situations. For example, for tactics, there's a couple of rules. For example, when to take a right decision, there's a couple of rules, and so on and so on. She engages with the player. She asks a lot of questions. She yeah, she's just a very, very good teacher. From many of the chess coaches I'm having or had so far, I'm very much enjoying her lessons. Also, and this is another point which is quite important to mention, it's rarely ever boring, almost never, because even the end games, which is like a thing which I just try to spray water on it and try to run away from it as much as possible. Even those things are super interesting and very engaging. Mm-hmm. And Elisabeth turned 40, and this is also, yeah, well, it's a little bit of an announcement that was probably it with the chess career. She's still playing. She just played in the Grand Prix in Monaco, but the classical games are getting less and less and less and less, and she is about to concentrate on chess as well, of course, but on other topics like teaching. She has a lot of students who she has for many, many years, and they would never want to miss her. And some other things like recording new chess-based training videos, or even maybe writing a book or something like that. She has a lot of options, and she's quite popular in the German chess scene after all. So yeah.
But she will retire from her tournament career?
No, well, she mentioned it already in an interview she had with our colleague Andre Schulz last year, that it is on the brink of like ending. And it looks as if it might slowly get less and less and less and less. Mm-hmm. That's how it is. What a pity, after all.
What a pity.
Yeah, because of course she's not only a chess player she has also a lot of nice games, and she loves the tactics, and she still enjoys rapid and blitz more than the classical games. Yeah, that on the quick side note. Ellie turned 40 years. It was a very nice birthday. That was a very nice surprise. She invited two opera singers who she introduced as her old school friend and a yoga teacher, because nobody knew who they were. And then they started singing opera, and through the night they had some nice opera sounds. And how this sounded like, I'll give just a little small video right here.
Weiß mit dem Locken umzugehen und mich auf Pfeifen zu verstehen. Drum kann es froh und lustig sein, denn alle Vögel sind ja mein.
All right, this was our second German theme. Now we're coming to our third German-related theme, that is the German Chess Bundesliga, which is considered
the strongest league in the world, league in the world.
And it might still be true, I think.
I think it definitely is true. I don't know whether all the top 10 players are registered for a German club, but at least I think 9. So it's absolutely amazing.
It is. And
you were there. What do you think about this development? Do you think it's positive? Do you have no opinion? Or do you think it's negative?
So the reason why we're talking about this is because Mr. Magnus Carlsen, the GOAT himself, is playing for the surprise team in the Bundesliga, which just jumped up the first league. It's St. Pauli. And not only that, the funny coincidence is that the German football team, in the same year, they also jumped to the first Bundesliga.
Yeah, and St. Pauli is a very famous club in Germany. They have lots of fans, and they have the Jolly Rogers, the crossbones, and this is merchandise. And also, the club has a reputation of being left wing, and the fans are special. And the stadium is just in the center of Hamburg. And St. Pauli, some of you might know this, some of you might not, is the name for the red light quarter, the famous red light quarter in Hamburg. And the stadium of St. Pauli is situated, I think, 500 meters from the red light quarter, so in the center of Hamburg.
Yeah, and the funny thing is that they are also playing chess there
Yeah,
in the stadium, normally.
yeah. But maybe we should, I don't know whether everyone is familiar with the structure of the German Bundesliga. Maybe we should say something about that. So it's 16 teams. Every team has 8 players, and they play, a round robin. So 15, you play against all the other 15 teams.
Yeah,
And
and the funny part is it doesn't take a week or 2 weeks.
no, because you play every so often, every month you play, 2 matches, and so. And also, this is also special for Germany, and this is why there are so many top players from abroad. There's absolutely no restriction on the number of players who are allowed, international players who are allowed to play. So basically, theoretically, you don't have to have any German player in the team to play for the title of German champion.
And I give a little example because another team started coming from the second league to the first league. It's the very first time. It's Düsseldorf. It's central Germany. And why did they rise like a phoenix to the top league? Well, because they have probably the best team which has ever been there in many decades. And the reason for this is also they have a very good sponsor who's promoting this. And let me read the first 8 boards. Erigaisi.
Who's the sponsor?
Rosenstein.
Vadim Rosenstein, the organizer of the Düsseldorf tournament.
Exactly. So let me read the first 8 boards. It's Erigaisi, Nepomniachtchi, Gukesh. They just
The world
have a
champion,
world champion there.
on board 3.
Yes, exactly. Wesley So on board number 4, Prag on 5, Yiwai, who drew against Magnus, is on board number 6. Anish Giri and Zhang Shishu. There's also Vidit, there's Sindarov, Van Forest, and Jan Gustafsson is also part of the team. Viktor Bologan, a legend. And Vadim Rosenstein himself is also in the team. So I guess this is my prediction. If Düsseldorf manages to win every single game and they cannot lose in the last game, Mr. Rosenstein will play himself. I hope so.
Probably.
Yeah,
Probably.
that's the German league. So I was talking about St. Pauli, though. And the reason why we're talking about St. Pauli a bit more often is that Magnus Carlsen is playing for St. Pauli. And he brought his crew with him. That's David Howell. Lovely, wonderful person. Johann Sebastian Christiansen and Jonas Bjerre and Peter Heine-Nielsen are the Scandinavian trio.
The Vikings.
Oh, and Arjan Tari, of course. Yeah, that's another Viking. So it's Norway, Norway, and Denmark in this case. Marc-Andrea Maurizi also joined. And Bartosz Socko was playing for St. Pauli already, if I remember correctly. And yeah, they have lost a couple of games because the Norwegian the strong players weren't there. But then this weekend or last weekend it was different. Magnus, Howell, Christensen, Bjerre, Maurizi, and Peter Heine-Nielsen were playing, and they won their game against Solingen, who didn't lose any game before.
Yeah.
And luckily for us, you have prepared another tiny game.
Yeah, but before I show this game, I wanted to come back to my question. What do you think about this? I mean, do you think it's good that as many as there's no limit on the number of international players? And also, don't you think that in a way this can this can lead to to a skewed situation in the table? So let's say, I mean, St. Pauli plays against a club, and St. Pauli plays without Magnus, without Howell, without Peter Heine-Nielsen, without the Vikings.
Yeah.
And then they lose against my club. Yeah. And then there's another club, and suddenly, Solling. Solling has, unfortunately, the Vikings arrive and they lose, And again, it very much depends on who plays and when, and is there enough money to let top players play. So
100%. So you want my opinion on this? Well,
I want your opinion on this.
It's, in my opinion, it is very messed up on one hand, because of course, what is even a German club if there is not even a German player playing? But then again, we can say the same thing about a lot of other sports, like football, for example. There's a couple of teams which also have like 9 international players. But then you could also stretch this even further. Like if you say there's a club from Hamburg, how many players from Hamburg are there even playing? Aren't they not coming from Munich or Stuttgart or Düsseldorf or whatever, right? So this continues endlessly, and at one point it's very difficult to pinpoint like where to start with all of this. Yeah, and that's the dynamic of this, and it is it's weird to me, but it's of course also very much fun because you are seeing so many amazing internationally great players who are facing each other. There's can happen that Gukesh plays against Ding Liren at one point again, or yeah, and this is of course great fun for everybody who wants to view some good, interesting games. And of course, in St. Pauli, when they were playing, the amount of people and fans who were there were tremendous. It was hundreds, and I think even thousands wanted to go there, but there was no chance. There was just a limited amount of tickets. Yeah. And your opinion, I want to hear you too.
I'm in a mixed. I have mixed opinions about
Also
this.
mixed.
On the one hand, I think it's of course good to have so many strong players, but then again, I think it's the German team championship, and it's to my mind, and I always hesitate because this always sounds very patriotic and nationalistic and so on and so on. Germans should play in the German league, but I think if you have a German team champion, at least a certain number of players on the team should be playing for Germany. That's what I think. And also I think that the structure of the German Bundesliga,
yeah, that's a bit old-fashioned.
It's very old-fashioned. I think it was created in the 1980s, I think 1985 or something. I mean, I remember I played in the Bundesliga back then, and the structure was basically the same. Mm-hmm. And again, if I think about the money poured into the Bundesliga and what you get in return, I wonder if you had, the budgets of these clubs must be tremendous to pay all the players and to pay expenses for hotels and travels and so on and so on. I mean, how many really entertaining and strong tournaments could you organize with that money? Of course, this is a private entertainment for most of the sponsors. They just give the money and they enjoy having a strong club. So you can't ask them, why don't you pool the money and organize a strong tournament? But in general, you have a big event and you have all these strong players, and it all seems to peter out and seems to get into the personal gain or the personal joy and enjoyment of a few persons. And also, I would think that, and this again, in the highlights of the Bundesliga is always if the teams meet on the final weekend and you have all 16 teams in the same town, in the same room, in the same venue, because then it's a chess meeting, But this is only recent, this development, and there's also disturbances. But I think then you could have some of the potential of the Bundesliga. So
yep,
I think
absolutely.
it's just, not enough, no restrictions on Germans, too much money for not much of a result, and the structure is not very viewer friendly. That's what I think. And I would welcome reforms, but Yeah, and again, and it's just because money is such a big issue that in the German Bundesliga, theoretically, the last four teams they are relegated to the second league. But, and again, in this season, this happened. If one team, this team, Kiel decided, oh, we don't have enough money to pay for the season, and they decided not to play at all. So suddenly, it's not 16; it's just 15 clubs.
And one always has to sit out.
And one always has to sit out, And again, I mean, just you have then the last three clubs basically should move into the second league, but then two more clubs who managed, then the sponsor withdraws and the last teams will remain in the league. So it's confusing and money plays much too big a role.
It is.
But still, having said all this, it's fun to watch entertaining games and to watch, of course, I mean, watching Magnus Carlsen in person, as you did.
And one entertaining game is what you are showing us right now from Peter Heine-Nielsen, though. Not from Magnus.
Not from Magnus. So let me see. What do I have to do here? We thought that, everyone was talking about Magnus Carlsen and we should focus, just to change. It would be interesting to see what his longtime second and coach, Peter Heine-Nielsen, is doing. Peter Heine-Nielsen is not playing that much chess, much tournament chess anymore, I think. But I think he's playing shogi a lot. I think he became Danish champion in shogi and is one of the world's best players in shogi.
What the heck? That I didn't know.
Yeah, so it
seems to help with chess, as I heard from a couple of people already who are also playing shogi.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. So he was playing against a young German player, EM International Master Alexander Krastev.
And Peter Heine-Nielsen was playing as black.
Yeah, Peter Heine had black, and the white was the young German International Master Alexander Krastev, who in 2016, or no, was it 2016, 2020 or something, he became European champion under 16. So he's a strong player, and here he had white, played e4, Peter Heine, and now he played g6. I think this is called hyper accelerated dragon. And Peter Heine was also doing he's a dragon expert, and he did courses for ChessBase on the dragon. And apparently he's a bit impatient to get the dragon structure, and so he does not play the dragon, but the hyper accelerated dragon. White plays c3, d5, cd5, queen d5. And now we get a kind of c3 Sicilian, in which black fianchettoed his black bishop. Knight 2 takes, bishop c4, queen d8, knight d4. So far so good. Both sides develop. All quiet and easy. And now white takes, and now black takes with a pawn, which to me, at least on the first sight, was a bit surprising because you ruin your pawn structure, but you get squares, you get the squares d5 and b5 covered. e6, knight e5, knight d5. So, and you, excuse me, by taking with a b pawn, you secured your knight a strong square on d5. So yeah, and this I think is quite interesting.
That's how I would play.
Yeah, that's how most people would play in the post Alpha Zero era. It's just white developed his pieces. The bishop is on c4, the knight is on e5, a nice outpost. The bishop can go, the other bishop can go to g5 or d2. But it's a bit, white has to find out what to do. And he decides to advance his h-pawn as Alpha Zero told us or taught us to do. And in this game, Peter Heine-Nielsen seems to be, old style, old school, because what I learned when I was starting to play chess is that you should centralize your pieces. You should not go on a, rash attack with h4, h5, but you should centralize your pieces. And if you centralize your pieces, all attacks by the opponent just will be in vain, because your pieces will be strong enough in the center to parry these attacks. And this game shows that this is a valid point. Black plays c5 with the idea to fianchet, or to put the bishop on the long diagonal. White continues his alpha 0 style. Puts the pawn to h6 and bishop 8. So, and now, should you ever be able to give a knight check on e7 or f6 and the knight cannot be taken, black would be mate. And also, just if you manage to put your queen to f6 and then, mate is in the air. Bishop c3. And now black centralizes, bishop b7, rook d8, c4, knight e7, bishop f4, rook d4, centralizing the rook again, bishop h2, and queen d8. You see, black's pieces suddenly they are on the d file. The bishop on b7 is strong, and it's difficult to say how white should continue. And it's amazing how quickly the white position collapses. d8, knight f5, knight g4, queen h4.
Oops.
Threatening the knight on g4, rook d4, knight d4, queen d1, f5, knight e5, queen g5.
Mate
And
threat.
That's basically it. f3, bishop e5, and it's game over.
Oh no. Knight f3 is in the air.
Knight f3 is very much in the air. And you do not only lose a lot of material, you're probably mated. Because, well, all the pieces by black are centralized and strong. And I think this was quite a nice little game.
It is very much showing how the old school chess can also defeat the Lila and Alpha Zero chess.
So sometimes it's good to centralize your pieces.
And we are already at the end of our show. Next time we talk, we have a beautiful event we will talk about, of course. Wijk is in the air.
The highlight at the beginning of the year, the traditional
Yes.
Wijk aan Zee tournament.
Quick predictions. We have to make quick predictions who will win this tournament, though.
There is the Masters and the Challengers. And the Masters is incredibly strong, Almost all the Bundesliga players are there, I think the top seed
Düsseldorf almost completely.
Caruana is, and I think Caruana has good chances. Erigaisi has good chances. Abdusatorov, of course. Prague has good chances. Gukesh, I think it's the first tournament Gukesh or the tournament plays after becoming world champion.
Yeah.
And also Vincent Keimer on a good day. Giri, and of course the defending champion Wijk. So, these are 7 players who have good chances to win.
You forgot one of the best players.
Did I now?
Leon Mendonça. My favorite, of course. I went into an escape room with him very recently, and Surya Ganguly. We managed to kill the escape room easily. He's in a good shape. He was training hard. I believe that Leon can become one of the top 3 players in this tournament. That's a super, super hardcore outsider tip, I know. But I really hope so. And he might lose the first, even the third game, something like that. But then he will come back, win after win after win.
You really think Leon can become...
No, of course not. But
I
really hope so.
Yeah. It's good to support your friends, Arne.
I agree. So do you also quickly, than not only the challengers.
Oh, the Challengers. The Challengers is also fantastic, you know. It's a fantastic tournament. I think top number 1 seed is Taidan Van Nguyen from the Czech Republic.
And Frederik Svane, another German player then.
Frederik Svane is a 2nd seed, but
I hope he will manage.
yeah, it would be great, you know, just for German chess it would be great. But I think the most people will focus on other players. For instance, Faustino Oro, 12 years old. He takes part in the Challengers.
Yeah. And Eddie Skurel.
Eddie Skurel, you also, you know, a strong. Divya Deshmukh.
Very nice, yes.
And
Prague sister.
Lu from China, you know, 14 or 15-year-old Chinese talent. She's also there.
My goodness. Oh, that's going to be an amazing tournament.
Lots of interesting players and games to watch. And the tournament will start tomorrow, 2:00 Central European Time.
Watch it
and
here.
It will be a big event. I mean, Wijk is always, you know, one of the great tournaments of the year.
2 Nights Talk, everybody. Thank you so much for watching. We will be back soon.
Thank you so much for watching. And we will see us next week, and then we will see how Leon, how Frederick, how Vincent, how Gukesh, and how all the other players and Faustino Oro will have fared in the first half of the tournament at Wijk aan Zee. Have fun.
Bye.
See you then. Bye.